like tree trunks. Feel the muscles. Come on, chew one bite.
Faced with insults from the white people, the black slave dared not resist. But unexpectedly, the white man became interested in her daughter. She pleaded with her master not to sell her daughter, but the master forcefully separated the mother and daughter, and the mother had to watch helplessly as her daughter was taken away. Back at the farm, the mistress trained her to be her personal maid and named her Marguerite. If Marguerite made even the slightest mistake, she would be severely beaten by the mistress. The mistress planned to invite the nearby white folks for a Christmas dinner. She asked the black butler to go into town and buy some candles, but the butler told her that the price of candles had gone up. A box now cost $5. Hearing this, the mistress was shocked, as candles had always cost $2.
My brother says you cheat me. How can they be that expensive?
It is not that the candles be expensive, missus. It is just that you cannot afford them.
How dare you talk back to me? Just get me a good price for them, boy, or I will have you whipped.
Yes, missus.
To get back at her, the black workers intentionally ruined the mistress's dress, and they spread dirty sheets on the dining table. This caused her to embarrass herself in front of her guests. Marguerite went even further by secretly handing wine to the black people. One of the white guests noticed and grabbed the bottle from her. Marguerite was terrified. The whites were about to drag her out and punish her for the theft. But at that moment, a group of British soldiers burst in. They told the white people that the black slaves on the farm had risen up. They had set fire to the sugarcane fields and killed several of the landowners. Marguerite told the mistress that the blacks would soon come for them and urged her to pack up and leave quickly. The mistress believed her and fled the farm that night in a carriage. Marguerite then took over the mistress's house, wearing her expensive clothes and using her perfumes. She even brought in her lover and slept in the mistress's bed. But the next morning, an unexpected event occurred while the two were still sleeping. Two black people were sleeping in the white woman's bed when they suddenly heard the mistress's voice. Frightened, they quickly put on their clothes and hid under the bed. The mistress didn't notice them. The older brother then chased her out of the room, feeling guilty because he had killed so many black people the night before. Overcome by remorse, he immediately took the gun from his drawer, knelt down, and shot himself. The two people hiding under the bed were terrified when they saw this. When the mistress heard the gunshot, she rushed into the room. Upon seeing her brother shot, she collapsed onto the bed in fear, and Margaret screamed in terror. The mistress realized there were people hiding under the bed, and the guards immediately crouched down and dragged the black people out. The mistress accused them of being the ones who killed her brother and ordered the guards to shoot them. However, just as the guard was about to pull the trigger, Margaret suddenly rushed out and knocked the guard over. The two of them quickly escaped. They ran to another farm, but they couldn't escape. In the end, they were caught by the butler, who grabbed the black man by the neck and raised his gun, aiming it at Margaret. Just as the butler was about to pull the trigger, someone suddenly stabbed him in the back. Margaret returned to the farm, but the mistress didn't punish her. A new overseer named Robert arrived at the farm. His purpose was to free the enslaved black people. When the mistress saw Robert for the first time, she immediately fell in love with him. But what she didn't expect was that Margaret, in her desire to escape slavery, set her sights on Robert. Perhaps freeing the enslaved black people was a mistake, because after their emancipation, the farm owner found them and offered to pay double the usual wages to have them cut the sugarcane in the field. But as soon as the black workers heard they had to work, they immediately pretended to be sick, and some even claimed they were too busy giving birth. Faced with these ridiculous excuses, even they couldn't help but laugh. Robert knew that this group of black workers was deliberately trying to make things difficult for him. However, they continued to mock Robert, singing vulgar songs. At that moment, Robert regretted freeing them. In his anger, he turned and walked away, letting the ripe sugar cane remain unharvested and rot in the field. The next day, Robert had the overseer post a notice about a rent increase around the estate, hoping to use this as a tactic to force the black workers to labor. But when the workers saw the notice, instead of working, they tore it up and threatened Robert, declaring that from now on, none of the black workers would work or pay rent. In a fit of rage, Robert smashed their tobacco and, with his men, set fire to the homes where the black workers lived. Seeing their homes burn down, the black workers fell to their knees and cried in despair. Eventually, they promised Robert that they would start working the next day. However, when the next day came, there wasn't a single black worker in the fields. Margaret immediately went to persuade them, But when Robert saw the black workers, an overwhelming hatred surged within him. In his impulsive rage, Robert almost killed Margaret. Fortunately, the mistress arrived in time to save her. Robert fell ill with anger, and in the end, thousands of acres of sugar cane were left to rot in the field, having missed the harvest season.
Stop this, I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave, listen to me. This man kidnapped me from my home in Canada. I'm the daughter of James Mink, and I'm not a slave. Listen to me.
The slave girl suddenly realized that the white plantation owner was watching her. She had no choice but to start being cautious. At night, she tried to quietly escape from the plantation, but Elro, who had been woken up, stopped her. No one had ever escaped from the plantation. He had a scar from his own attempt years ago. The next day, the girl quietly went to the master's house. She planned to steal an envelope, paper, and pen to write a letter to her parents, hoping they could rescue her soon. The plantation owner happened to pass by. Mary lied, saying she wanted to find a book from the bookshelf to read, but to her surprise, the man asked her to read it aloud. The girl had no choice but to pretend to comply with his wishes. However, halfway through, she was abruptly interrupted. The escaping girl was caught by the mistress, who immediately saw through her husband's intentions. At night, Mary wrote a letter asking for help with the stolen paper and pen. However, she had no way to send it. 3 days later, the postman came to pick up the letters at the plantation. Mary hoped to find a way to send her letter. Elro, seeing this, initially didn't want to get involved. He was worried the girl would be caught, so he reluctantly decided to help. Taking advantage of the postman's conversation with the master, Elro stopped the girl and secretly tucked the letter into his own pocket. He pretended to be a submissive servant, happily greeting the postman. As the postman was about to leave on horseback, the black slave unexpectedly pulled out a nail and struck the horse's back. The startled horse reared, throwing the postman to the ground. Seizing the rare opportunity, Elro quickly slipped Mary's letter into the envelope.
William, please, be gentle.
Her husband placed his hand on her shoulder, and the next actions completely caught the girl off guard. After putting a gun in his pocket, he walked over to her, removed the wedding ring from her finger. Mary seemed to realize something, but by then, it was too late. After leaving the room, the man called his subordinates over. The girl cried and begged him to spare her. As the cries echoed in the room, her husband began to consider his next move. The following day, Mary was handcuffed by the man and taken to a slave market. The girl pleaded desperately. Mary was then forced onto an auction block. Before the previous slaves had even finished their bidding, it was time for her to be auctioned. As young, beautiful slaves were in high demand in the market, the man ripped open the girl's coat to display her to the crowd. A middle-aged gentleman entered and seemed intrigued by the girl on the block. However, as the auction bids went up, the girl quickly interrupted him.
Listen to me. This man kidnapped me from my home in Canada. I'm the daughter of James Mink, and I'm not a slave. Listen to me.
Due to Mary's behavior on the block, the man was forced to take her away, making her realize her current predicament. But just then, the middle-aged gentleman interrupted the man's violent behavior. After a brief conversation between the two men, Yosin continued pulling his wife into the auction. The middle-aged man offered $1,700 to purchase the woman from him. Though Yosin tried to hide his excitement, he raised the price to $2,000. The man didn't hesitate and pulled cash from his pocket, handing it to the other man.